What's going on, Grinders? It's Tuesday night around 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that means you are now inside the castle. That's Cardstock After Lock. My name is Will Priester, a.k.a. Chief Justice 06 here at RotoGrinders, joined by a very special good friend of the show, Geoff Wilson from SportsCardInvestor.com. Geoff, I know you've been traveling. I know you've been at card shows. First of all, let me just congratulate you guys for 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Fantastic. You've earned it. The best, pretty much what I consider analytical tool in today's market for sports cards. Man needs no introduction. Geoff Wilson from SportsCardInvestor.com. Geoff, how are you doing, my friend?
Appreciate it, Will. Thanks a lot, man. Doing great. 100,000 was a great milestone for us, and excited about that. I'm also excited that the sports card market seems to be moving back up a little bit. We're seeing some momentum. We're seeing a number of cards start to go back up after there's been a lot of cards falling over the last few months, but we're starting to see some life in the market again. So excited about all of those factors.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's one of the things we talked about last week about, where do we feel like the pulse of the market is? Is there something turning around? Are there still buying opportunities? So, I think that's fantastic. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that today as we look at some of the, iconic cards of the industry. And, I know a lot of times when we're in the market, we're looking at Trae Young and we're looking at Luka, and they're still going to have some, of their current, what I would consider a current iconic card. But today, we're going to look at some of the big boys, the LeBrons, maybe the Kobe's, and wherever else, we end up landing. So really excited about today's show. And this is something we do every show. Guys, you know what I'm going to say. Get on over to SportsCardInvestor.com. Make sure you use the promo code Grinders. That's going to get you 20% off your first payment. That's 20% off for the month or 20% off for the year. For all of you guys that want to skim the system, no, it's not going to work. If you use 20% for the month, that's all you get. You don't get to use the promo for the year. Where is the most bang for your buck? It's in 20% for the year, folks. Head on over to SportsCardInvestor.com. 20% off. Promo code Grinders, and that'll get you 20% off market movers. And we are now in the show. Geoff, and you've already got something pulled up, and I'm just going to let you talk and parade around in market movers this week as I'm sure if there are any new nuances that I've missed, I'm sure you will disclose some of those. And it looks like we're going to kick this thing off with LeBron James. So I'm very excited to talk about LeBron. He was actually a guy that I highlighted last week on the 4-alarm fire drill, which is a very new snippet project that we're working on here. And I just think LeBron's cards within the next few months are going to continue to climb, especially since now, and I don't want to call it a publicity stunt, but him going back to number 6, I think is going to increase his value for some of his Lakers cards, some of his old Cavs cards. So I just want to pick your brain. Clearly, this is one of his iconic cards that we have pulled, the 2003 Topps Chrome. I mean, man, I think this is the one we would all like to get our hands on. I'm going to shut up now. Geoff, how are you feeling about this LeBron? Looks like we had a trend line moving down, but I'm sure this is going to reverse pretty quickly as the season comes to an end and we kind of get back on the upswing.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's real interesting is we've seen a little bit of that upswing the last couple of weeks. So here on the graph, this is a 6-month graph in market movers. I zoomed out to look at the last 180 days. And like a lot of the sports card market, it's been a pretty significant slide since the highs in February. We had these crazy peaks in February. You can see how high this card rose from early January, where this card was about $19,000. It got all the way up to a high of almost $45,000 in the middle of February. But then it started this real pretty dramatic slide back down, and it got all the way down to a low point of around $13,000 in late June. So this is about 2 weeks ago is when it hit $13,000. Now, the sports card market apparently decided that's low enough. And, that's actually too low for LeBron, because if you look at what it's done just over the last 2 weeks, and if we zoom in here, I'm going to zoom into a 30-day graph, and you can see over the last 30 days, that's a nice positive upwards trend overall. That low sale of $13,000 occurred right here on June 25th. Well, this card is now gone back up. We had some sales as much as $21,000, as much as another of over $21,000. Yesterday, it was selling for around $18,000. So the last 2 weeks have looked pretty good for this card. Whereas the several months before hadn't, or I should say the 3 months before hadn't. But it's nice to see that uptick. And, as we were going through this fall period, there's a lot of different reasons why this, I think, occurred. You had everything reopening, of people getting out for the first time, shifting their dollars, because of, COVID was no longer keeping people cooped up. So they were starting to spend money and pay attention elsewhere. You also, by the way, because of all these record prices in January and February, you also had a ton of supply hit the market. You had a ton of people say, well, now is the right time to sell because of all these record prices. So then you had a ton of supply hit the market right in here. And as a result of that, the overabundance of supply started to bring prices down. And we saw this across the board with most iconic cards. But as this was occurring, I said, I'm still very optimistic about the long term of the sports card market. And at some point, this trend will bottom out, and then it will reverse, and we'll start to go back up again. And hopefully it will eventually climb up above where it was in February. That remains to be seen as to when that will happen. But at least the fact that it's now up a pretty decent amount over the last couple of weeks is a positive sign. And we're seeing that not just with LeBron James, but we're seeing this upwards momentum with some other key cards in the hobby as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, I totally agree with you, Geoff. And I think that's really good insight. And I can't talk enough about, even the things outside of the analytics that, I think if you want to be in this business and you want to be successful, and if you just want to collect and possibly try to buy things at the right time, understanding what else is happening in the world outside of our little bubble. Because I know sometimes as collectors, it's so funny. I feel like I don't buy anything else on eBay anymore, Geoff. I open up eBay and all I buy is cards, and that's all my mind is on. And sometimes I need a new pair of shoes too, right? And so the rest of the world is a lot more focused on those external things outside of our little bubble. So I think that's really good perspective, just thinking about people getting out and, like you said, shifting those dollars and shifting those assets into things that maybe they've stored up to do over an extended period. I will plug this in. I do want to get your perspective on this as well. LeBron James got bounced out of the playoffs pretty early this year, which is abnormal for his career. He's not a guy that typically is out in the first round. And clearly, there were some injuries and he was hurt and Anthony Davis was hurt. But, do you think him getting bounced a little earlier this year, and I know, the trend line, he's moving back up now. Do you think he may have caught some momentum? And I know it's all speculation, but you think he may have caught the momentum a little earlier had right now he been in the finals? I think yes, but I also want to get your perspective on it, just your professional opinion.
I think that the market certainly would have been a lot kinder to him. In the grand scheme of things, I don't know how much another finals, matters for LeBron's legacy, but I doubt we would have seen the drop that we did over the last few months. I mean, if you look at, for example, a lot of the card market has come down the last few months, but if you look at guys like Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton or Devin Booker, they certainly haven't been moving down, even though a lot of the card market's been moving down, right? In fact, Ayton's cards have been going, he was one of our top 5 hottest cards this week, because his cards have been really pushing up. So yeah, I'm sure part of this was definitely, fueled additionally by the fact that they got bounced from, the playoffs pretty early this year. And that certainly contributed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see if we can stay in Laker Town and kind of keep it in the NBA while we're here. I want to discuss Kobe Bryant as well, right? While we're kind of on that subject. And the reason why is because, clearly when when his Hall of Fame induction was coming up, prior to that, we saw Kobe just go on a immaculate run. And we also know that was around February. So, it's, maybe the data may be a little skewed. Like, these are things I know. But how do you feel long term about Kobe? Because, a lot of new things about Kobe may not hit the surface. But I still think Kobe's a fantastic hold in your portfolio. And so, for a guy that's, been almost his own face of basketball in his own way. How do you feel about him? I know he's been trending down, but he's got a lot of liquidity. People are still buying Kobe Bryant long term. What are kind of your thoughts on a guy like that who, clearly he has nothing else to achieve? All we have to go on is legacy. What are your thoughts on a guy like Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, I think if the card market has kind of hit a bottom point and is starting to trend back up again, which I'm seeing more and more evidence of that being the case, then I think Kobe is a real solid buy right now, along with a lot of these other iconic players. And here in Market Movers, I just brought up the last year. So this is looking at a full year of Kobe Bryant's card prices. And you can kind of see the ebbs and the flows of the market. But I mean, you had this crazy run up. This is right here, right around January, or this is right around the end of December, right before Christmas is where my mouse is right here. And you saw this crazy run up in January and February to these peaks. This is his 1996 Topps base card in PSA 10, where this card got right on up to $10,000 in mid-February when the market was just absolutely on fire. And then very much like that LeBron card I just showed you, it's had a pretty huge fall. It's fallen all the way from $10,000 all the way down to around $2,500. It actually got as low as $2,100, which is really, really low for this type of card. But if we zoom in and look at the activity over the last 30 days, you can actually see, and specifically if we kind of look at this last 2 weeks, you can see that, hey, maybe we've hit the bottom. Maybe things are starting to climb back up a little bit again. If we switch it here to go look at the last 14 days, that's actually a positive trend line over the last 14 days. These cards bottomed out at around $2,100, $2,168. And then the last few days, they've been selling for $2,700, $2,600. So we've seen a little bit of an increase from where they bottomed out. And that might not look like a lot, but when you're looking at, a pattern like this, the very fact that we seem to have kind of hit a bottom point and things start to be, if you look at that, it's pretty kind of consistent ticking up there. When you look at this the very end of this chart, that makes me optimistic, particularly when you overlay other cards of other iconic players and you see that a lot of them are following this same pattern right now, which is that they seem to have all bottomed out around the end of June, and they seem to be ticking back up over the course of the month of July. So to me, that's kind of making it feel like this could be a kind of a closing buying window. If you want to get in at the absolute cheapest you can right now on these guys, I think this could be a pretty important time to do so, because I think you could start to see this climb continuing to take place over July, August, September. We'll see, but to me, it looks pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, Geoff. One of the things I looked at with this particular card is, compared to some of the newer players like Luka, like Trey, like the newer guys that are going to come out, like LaMelo, when his pop count continues to grow, we're not going to see a whole lot more, I don't think, on a Kobe Bryant 1996 Topps PSA 10 base. The pop count is pretty solidified. I mean, maybe we pick up one or two here and there, as people maybe, buy unopened, sealed wax, unopened boxes, stuff like that. But all in all, we're pretty close, I think, to the finish line here with Kobe Bryant in terms of his PSA 10 products in this particular card. Same thing with LeBron. We're not going to see a whole lot. And so for me, when I'm looking at these iconic players, which I love, I think it really gives us a form of stability, long term, because we don't have to worry about, a pop count going from 3,000 to 5,000 tomorrow. That's just not happening. I think that's very important, and that's one of the things I love about the tool. We get so much data all in one place. One of the things for me that I've been using recently, and we've used it on the show a whole lot too, because I think it's just been fantastic, being able to just pick a sport and see which players are starting to trend, a little higher, or which players are starting to trend a little lower. And so I know you mentioned DeAndre Ayton, and we're not going to get an Ayton because he's not iconic yet. But, that was something that caught my eye just over the past few weeks. I mean, up 50%, 60%. I mean, it's been insane. And so that's one of the things that I think, with market movers that we get. Geoff, I'm going to kind of let you pick out a player. I've got another one that I want to look at here later. But, I'm going to let you pull, maybe one of your favorite iconic cards, and let's analyze it for the people and see, what other nuggets we can uncover here. Because I've got a feeling a lot of these iconic cards, as you've already spoke of, are following a similar trend line.
Yeah, they are. And let's hear, I just brought up on the screen Tom Brady's 2000 Bowman Chrome rookie card. So we'll switch to football for a minute. And it did not have the same degree of drop as the basketball cards did. You saw the biggest drop with the basketball cards, but you still saw a drop with Brady and some of these other cards. And you can see that Brady, he kind of, hit some highs in February like a lot of these guys did. Then he actually kind of hit some highs again in March. And it's kind of slid down since then. Not as big of a drop by any means, but he kind of bottomed out once again in late June. And then if you just look at what's kind of gone on here at the very end of this last 30 days, you kind of see bottomed out here in late June. And then this card's kind of started to tick back up, tick back up, tick back up, tick back up a little bit. So once again, that same type of pattern. And if we switch over to baseball and let's say we look at Mike Trout, I mean, you're almost looking at an identical pattern. If we zoom out to see 180 days, I mean, here you are, you hit the top of the market on February the 4th. You went way down pretty consistently. And then you had this little bounce right here. And, you're kind of back up the last couple of weeks. Now that doesn't mean that this could just be a tiny bounce. If you notice, he did have a bounce back up here, and then he kind of came back down again and kept going. But what's different from this bounce and what we're currently seeing is it seems like most of these iconic cards are experiencing a little bit of a bounce all of a sudden. And so it's not just Trout, it's not just, Brady, it's not just Kobe, it's not just LeBron, but it's a lot of these guys that are experiencing that little bounce. And so this, looking at the recent performance, the last 30, seeing that trend line go up, that makes me think that, once again, that this could be the start of another kind of upwards run for the sports card market. And so I don't think you're going to see that kind of spike again. I hope you don't see that kind of spike again, to be quite honest, because if you see that kind of spike, that's dangerous. That means that it's likely going to, hit a fall on the other side, as we've seen, saw this one do. But what I do hope is that you see a slow and steady climb that continues to go up from this point.
Yeah, absolutely. In the financial market as an advisor many moons ago, well, not many moons ago, but a couple of years ago, when we're talking about portfolio management and trying to manage risk, I'd always tell, some of my clients, look, if we're going to invest conservatively, what we're trying to do is really outpace inflation. And I don't want to get into a financial conversation, but the idea is that we're going to take our 5% and we're just going to take a snail's pace and gradually ride the wave through the next 10, 15 years. And because we don't want to see the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows. And even though, you may be up from where you started, it's still a roller coaster ride when you invest 10,000 and you're, 50,000 a day and 30,000 tomorrow. And, and clearly, we didn't see major swings like that all the time. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm with you in terms of these iconic cards. It would be nice to see just gradual improvement, just kind of the stair step approach rather than, like you said, some of these oddball sales, because at the end of the day, when we have, situations like that, it can turn away investors, right? Because an investor may feel taken advantage of. Oh, somebody scammed me on this one, and then they see the price trending down, and they feel bad, and they try to get out of it, and then maybe they don't return because at the end of the day, we want to make some money, but we love the hobby because it started back in the day as a hobby. So I've got one more for you, Geoff, and this is one that I think was hot, rolling up into a documentary or before. And I've got a feeling that Tiger Woods still has a little bit more meat on the bone in that I think this is 1998 Upper Deck? I think that's the one in the burgundy polo. So I want to kind of take a look at that one, and let's just see where he is, because we know about the injury that he had. And look at me, I said 1998. 2001 is good too, but
2001 and 1996, 96. Yeah, I'm going to look at his 2001 autograph card.
Yeah, that's
fantastic. One of his 1996. Whoops, let's look at one of his 1996. I'm going to put them both on the same graph for here. Tiger Woods. Let's look at his SI for Kids card in 96. Yeah. I'll look at
that. Was a big one. Yeah, that was a big one. Let's check that out, because I do think Tiger has some more meat on the bone. I believe perhaps he'll come back and play a little bit. And, clearly he's already, I feel like, solidified his legacy as well. But I think as long as Tiger's around the game and people see him, I think people still get the tingly feeling when he's on the course. So just want to look at him as we close this thing out and kind of get a pulse and see where he's been here on this same trend line. And whoa, look at that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sale. It's hard to tell because there's not a lot of sales of these cards. These cards are they just don't, these are rare cards. Like his I'm trying to, his SP authentic autographs card. I just tried PSA 9 because there were very few sales of the PSA 10. There's only 13 of this card in PSA 9. So you only see it sell a few times a year. The Sports Illustrated for Kids in PSA 9, there's 191. So you get a little bit of a better trend line there. And what's funny is actually, let's just look at that SI for Kids. Here's that SI for Kids in PSA 9, of which that's that one you were talking about in the red shirt. There's 191 of this card. So, but what's interesting is, look, top sale of this card once again in February. This card maxed out in a PSA 9 at just over $10,000. It dropped all the way down to a low sale of $3,200. But then since that sale on June the 20th, the last two have been above that. They've been $3,500, $3,600. So just like the other cards, it's not a huge bump, but we've seen what appears to be a bottoming out. And then, the last couple of sales have been above that. So it feels like every time we look at one of these graphs, it feels like late June was the bottom of something, right? And you kind of are seeing evidence of a little bit going up since then. Let's see what else we have in market movers for Tiger Woods. See if we have any cards in here that might have a little more of a consistent sales pattern. Let me call up some of our other cards. So let's look at, okay. So this is probably the one you were thinking about. This is his 2001 Upper Deck base card in PSA 10. This is a much more common card here. So let me go ahead and click on that one and load that up on the graph. And, so what we've seen, let's look at the last 180 days on that one. So, yeah. So, I mean, like everything else, we're seeing the huge spike of this card that occurred in February. And then it's come down since then. I don't know if it started to necessarily go back up yet. Maybe it's gone back up a little bit. Let's zoom in on the last 30 days. Yeah. And, you can kind of say, well, it hasn't ticked up as much, but the low point on this card was June the 26th, when it sold for $336. The most recent sales of this card have been $378, $426, $391. So a little bit up from that low point, in late June. This card has a population count of over 10,000. So it's a pretty common card. A lot of this cards sell every single day. In fact, let's look at the number of sales per day on this card. So yeah, so you can see, a lot of these, you get multiple sales a day. That day, gosh, that day 23 of that card sold. And that could explain why, let's see, what day is that? That's the day with the lowest price. So that's why that one particular day, 23 of that card sold. And so, whenever you have that many of a particular card sell on the same day, that's going to negatively affect the prices a little bit. But, in general, at a minimum, it seems to have kind of stabilized, and maybe it's going to start to tick back up again.
Yeah, for sure. And Geoff, like I said, man, it's just always a pleasure to have you on because, I know we're not like best buddies, but I do consider you a good friend in the industry. And the one thing that I think I've gathered from this whole show of just looking at the iconic players is this really is a market, right? We haven't seen any card that's been exempt from a similar pattern. And I think that, can show collectors, whether we've been in it 10 years, 15 years, 5 months, it is a market and we need to treat it as such, right? Like, and yes, there may be more popular sports seemingly. Football is probably the most popular American sport in terms of watching. And I think we've seen basketball maybe command a little bit more attention in the cardboard space. But all in all, it's still a market, right? And everyone's kind of on the same train. Maybe we're on a different track every now and again. But I just thought that was beautiful to be able to see that just the market as a whole, all high points in February, all low points in June, and now all are kind of in this similar, we've bottomed out now. Let's get smart, people. This is too low, and let's ride the wave back up. So I think that's fantastic. Geoff, I'll let you give us some closing remarks, and then we'll head out of here.
Yeah, that's definitely what we're seeing with the iconic cards. The players who are not necessarily doing much on the quarter on the field today. With some of the modern players, it's a little bit different because there are the on-court or on-field, activities, what's actually taking place that can also have the day-to-day effect. So even though the market forces as a whole have been pushing most cards down over the last few months until maybe the last few weeks, you still see some guys break through. Like obviously Shohei Ohtani. I mean, like I was just looking, let's look at a 90-day graph of his card prices. I mean, you want to talk about, a crazy up and to the right climb. This is the last 90 days, of Ohtani's cards. And, especially, gosh, these last 30 days. I mean, this guy has been hot as possibly can be. So, he's one of those guys that even though maybe the overall market forces are kind of coming down a little bit, he's so, in the moment that he's overcoming that and not only overcoming that, but really, really pushing his prices up like crazy. And then, you see other guys, like I was just looking at Cameron Johnson in our top 5 show this week, because he's emerged as a guy who's making a difference in the playoffs for the Suns. He obviously had that crazy monster dunk this past Sunday over PJ Tucker. And so, people really took notice of him, but you could see like his cards are, pretty quickly escalating in price. And so some of the modern guys have been able to break out of that, but yeah, a lot of the iconic cards have been following that pattern, but it's almost eerie how similar of a pattern it is across almost every card in the sports card market. That's an iconic card. And that's a good thing because in my opinion, that makes the market maybe a little more predictable, especially if we've hit the bottom and we're starting to climb out of it, which is what I think has happened. Then no matter where you want to park your money across any of those iconic cards, you're probably going to end up doing pretty well. So, I obviously don't have a crystal ball. I don't know for sure that the increase we've seen the last couple of weeks is going to sustain, but I generally feel pretty good about it. We've got the National Sports Collectors Convention coming up in a couple of weeks, which is the largest sports card show of the year in the world. And in fact, they're saying that this one will be the largest sports card show of all time. And it's going to be not only the largest of all time, but it's going to be the largest of all time by double or triple what the previous all-time largest sports card show of all time was. So you got that, which I think could only help fuel interest and attention. And you've got, from there, you've got, what I think is going to be a strong fall, the NFL starting back up, and also people getting all that summer travel out of the way, cold weather starting to kick back in, people kind of going back indoors again. I think you're going to see a lot more attention, once again on cards this fall. So I think, I think this is a real nice point in the market to start buying.
Absolutely. And Geoff, listen, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. We're going to start naming him on this show Genius Geoff Wilson. I think that's got a nice ring to it. Genius Geoff Wilson. Once again, everyone, please get over to sportscardinvestor.com. Make sure you get in on market movers. One other thing I didn't mention earlier that we have mentioned on the show before, the Market Movers app is out and available, but the code is not going to work on the app. Please join through the website and get your 20% off. That's 20% off. Promo code Grinders, 20% off the month or for the year. I've already done my spiel. You know to use 20% for the year. I'm Will. That's Genius Geoff. You've been Inside the Castle. We'll see you next week.